You are watching
Trinity Episcopal School Production Network. TESPN.
Welcome to this week's TESPN podcast, where we are going to recap the fall season here of 2024. I'm joined by seniors Ben Schneider and David Jennings. I'm Rick Hamlin, and we're here representing TESPN and just trying to put this fall into perspective. It was a good fall. Fell a little bit short of a state championship in any sport. Did have one league championship and a couple close calls for other league championships, but let's just run through the sports. So starting with cross country, boys improved on their finish at the Vista meet, and then on the girls side, Kaylin Harris, just a ninth grader, made all league and all state. So signs are trending up for cross country. Then for volleyball, at a very senior laden team, swept Veritas, swept St. Margaret's, ended the season on a high note, winning 3 of the last 4. Going to be some big shoes to fill, especially with the four-year seniors that we had with Rosalie Tadigan, Campbell Cash, Dakota Baldwin, and Sarah Brown. But there's some good young talent there as well. A couple sophomores on the team that contributed. So they had a pretty good season with volleyball.
Absolutely. I would say even getting all the younger players in the rotation of volleyball, which is what I saw, almost every player played every game. So that's going to be helpful getting some experience in it next year.
And that's a program with great numbers that had 2 JV teams that were totally full. So a lot of 9th and 10th graders that play volleyball. So we'll look for them to hopefully keep improving. And then boys soccer, Ben, that was a team you were on, finished the season right around 500. A lot of close games, yes. Several one-goal losses to some of the top teams in the state, some quality ties against some good opponents. For you being in your first year on boys soccer, joining the team as a senior, as a goalkeeper, by the way, perfect. You made every save of every shot that you faced this year. Maybe you should have been the starter. No, but Ben, what was it like being on soccer this year?
I mean, it's a great group of guys. I mean, the biggest thing was just the camaraderie that was felt. Like we had our rough spots throughout the season, but there was never a time where we felt like we were out of any game. I thought that was the biggest thing, and it's just about building a culture with those younger guys. They're going to come up with the idea that they're never out of any game, and that's the big thing that the seniors instilled.
Was there one game in particular that stands out? I know we didn't ever quite get that signature win against a high-ranked D1 opponent, but as you reflect on your boys soccer season, is there a game that rises above in your mind?
There's 2 big ones. One at the beginning of the season, Collegiate down 5-2.
I think you were down 3-0.
Down 3-0.
Right.
We fought back, came back down only 3-2, and we were just almost there. And then last was Benedictine near the end of the season. We got the 0-0 tie against a really solid team there.
Yeah, on their home field.
Yeah.
That was a game that I saw that was the intensity level was rainy, it was chilly, and that was that was a fun game to watch.
Fun.
Even though it was 0-0, I feel like both teams actually created a lot of chances. Your starting goalie, Cole Farrell, made some incredible saves that day, and then at the end, actually, if I remember correctly, we had I can't remember if it's a corner kick or a free kick that we almost scored on, that one of their defenders cleared off the line. But that was that was a really exciting one for sure. Well, going along the roll call of sports, you had football, of course, really talented team with a number of future Division I players. Had big wins against St. Christopher's, beat North Cross, who was a D2 powerhouse. Got a great road win at Flint Hill. But then also did ultimately fall just short of playing for another state title with a heartbreaking 1-point loss at Benedictine in the state Final Four. And also just really a play away from winning the Prep League, falling in a really tight 1-score game at a Woodbury Forest team that ends up going undefeated. So football, I would say, had a good year, but was 2 plays away from another championship season. And then tennis, making states again. We had the LIS individual champion, Susanna Whitehead, a 10-5 record. And that's a team with just, I think, only 1 or 2 seniors in the top 6 lines. So that's a team that looks really poised for a strong future as well. And then probably the standout team of the fall was field hockey. Got into a top 20, maybe depending on even what polls you look at, a top 10 national ranking. Went through the regular season undefeated, LIS regular season champions, LIS tournament champions, the number 1 seed in the state tournament. Did fall short of that state title, and of course, an injury to one of the top players at the worst time was a tough pill to swallow. But field hockey still finishes the year with only 1 loss and one of the best teams in the nation.
Yeah, I mean, Ben, I think you and I were both in that broadcast for the state championship game. It was a pretty deflating loss, but I would say it didn't really take the energy out of the team and the way they fought the whole time. You know, I believe they went down 2-0 and then got a goal to cut it to 2-1, and you could hear the fans, the bench, the players starting to get a little bit of a rumble out of the stadium. You could kind of tell that this is a team that really wanted it, ultimately just fell short, but I think they should still hang their heads high after the LIS championship win.
Yeah, and the atmosphere at some of those late season games in the LIS and state tournament, I mean, it really was electric at Aycock Stadium for field hockey this year. All right, let's wrap up the fall by talking about some individual performances. Let's start with we'll call a rookie of the fall, someone who was new to Titan athletics or at least new to the varsity level this year. David, we'll start with you. Who was your rookie of the fall across the landscape of the 6 fall sports that Trinity competes in?
I'm probably going to have to make mine Cabell Berkeyheiser. Transfer in, played on the field hockey team, which was pretty likely to be our best team that we had to offer as a school this fall. Really spaced out the field well, controlled the field, and had a great first year as a Titan.
How about you, Ben?
For me, it's got to be Cole Dameron. We talked about him a few times on this podcast before, but just as a freshman, sort of unknown coming into the season, at least to me, and really made up being one of the best defensive players on a really good Trinity team.
Yeah, there were a couple of football games where I actually think I said to Tyree I had to check the roster because this kid making all the tackles, it was a 9th grader, and I hadn't heard much about him either. This I think was our first home game against North Cross. And I mean, I went to Coach Mickens after the game. I said, "Is the roster wrong? Cole Dameron, this kid's a 9th grader." He said, "Yeah." And I think he had something like 10 or 12 tackles against North Cross, and he continued to be one of the top defensive players all year. So really excited about Cole, and I got to know him as the fall went on. Nice kid, really motivated, and excited to see where the future takes him. For my rookie of the fall, I'm going to go with someone who's been a part of Titan Athletics for several years now, but it was his first year as a varsity player, and that's Cole Farrell. The starting goalie for boys soccer, was close to, I think, being an all-prep goalie. I think if there was a second team, I think he probably would have got it behind Woodbury's keeper. And there were some games, we mentioned Benedictine with the clean sheet, but there were some other games, especially early in the year when the team was still dealing with some injuries where Cole kept us in games. And I think he exceeded a lot of people's expectations, moving up from being the JV keeper to the varsity keeper. And you got to work with him every day in practice under the tutelage of keeper coach Carter Tyree, and so you saw how much work Cole put in.
Oh, I mean, you can't meet a nicer guy. He worked harder than anybody on the team. He worked pretty much throughout the summer just to get better, and it really showed off in the season.
Yeah, so having coached Cole myself, was really proud to see his fantastic contributions to boys soccer. All right, Ben, I'll come back to you for an athlete of the fall. Someone that stood out to you above all others in the 6 sports, who would you choose?
I think the easy one's Davion Brown. I mean, he 4th all-time Richmond for touchdowns, and there's a chance he breaks that next year. He's most likely going to break the receptions record in Richmond next year. And just another fantastic season from him. I think 10 touchdowns in only 8 games. So I look forward to seeing what he's going to do next year, and just a fantastic season this year.
Yeah, just a junior. I mean, like you said, already high in the record books for the whole Richmond region, public schools, private schools, everybody. He's a top 20 national recruit in football, one of the top wide receivers in the country with over 30 D1 offers. We've had Davion Brown, or Fat Rat as he's called, on the podcast a couple of times, and it's been really fun to watch him mature, not just as an athlete, but just as a Titan and a student athlete in this community. And yeah, I did look at the stats. I mean, he averaged 118 receiving yards per game this year, and that's just receiving. He also occasionally played at running back, kick return, played in the secondary some. I think he has a chance to arguably go down as the best football player in school history, and really excited to see he has one more year. So you can never go wrong, I think, choosing him with your athlete of the fall. David, you with Devion as well, or you got a different choice?
I could be, but I'm going to go back to the field hockey team here and take Carson Beatty. She, I believe she scored in every single game except one, maybe two this year. Every field hockey broadcast that I was on, she was just a force down on the offense. Committed to Syracuse to play next year, and I think field hockey had a really exciting year despite the loss at the end, and she was a big part of that.
Yeah, and the Vista State Player of the Year, as well as LIS Player of the Year. And Vista Field Hockey, is loaded with some top talent. Norfolk Academy is always one of the top programs in the country. Collegiate has Division I talent. We saw Bishop O'Connell, who ended up making to the state championship game, and they had a couple D1 players. So for Carson to be the Vista State Player of the Year, that's some fierce competition, and definitely a good choice as well. She'll go down as a Titan legend, and in field hockey, which has been a standout program for well over a decade now, she's right up there with the legends of Trinity Field Hockey. I think both of these are great choices. Just want to maybe throw a third choice in for me, which will be Susanna Whitehead. For the second year in a row, the LIS Tennis Player of the Year at the #1 line of singles. She dominated, went undefeated, and really led this team, as well as #1 doubles, of course. And so Susanna, she was on our podcast a few weeks back. Would encourage you to check out our interview with Susanna. But again, just a junior, so she's got one more year, hopefully, in this program to continue her track record of amazing success on the tennis court. All right, I want to ask you all one more final question. And we didn't talk about this beforehand, so this is just kind of a gut reaction. But what would you say was your game, match, event of the fall of all the sports? Maybe the game that stands out for you the most, that you either saw or played in or watched from the bench. But what's your biggest memory of the fall season?
I know I talked about the Benedictine and collegiate games, but for me it was really the St. Chris soccer game. Those games have always just been a real staple of Trinity. Like, most people don't come out to soccer games, but those games are always just packed. So it was really fun to be a part of that environment. We couldn't get the win, but we fought back from down 2-0, and arguably there was a call at the end where we could have tied it up. So for me, that was my clear game of the year.
Yeah, it was a Friday afternoon. It was an incredible atmosphere. Like you said, huge turnout. It was a beautiful fall day. The Saints pretty much dominated the first half, or even maybe the first 3 quarters of the game. But Titans pushed late, cut it to 2-1, put it in the back of the net. Looked like it would be 2-2. That one got chalked off. Went back and watched the film. Still not totally sure what that call was, but that was a very exciting one for sure, and one that I know I was on that broadcast and really enjoyed being part of. David, your event of or match, meet, game of the fall?
I'll have more, but I would definitely agree with that St. Chris soccer game. I was watching from the sidelines. That was a crazy atmosphere. But 2 stand out to me. Number 1 is a volleyball broadcast I did with co-president Hagan Andrew, where we took stab to 5 sets. It was all the way down to the wire. I think we probably lost by 2 or 3. And it was just an incredible atmosphere to be a part of, especially in the broadcast booth. And then, second of all, was probably the football game against St. Michael the Archangel, where the student section was incredibly slim apart from me, Ben, and about 6 others. And we held it down for the second half and almost saw a comeback win. So that was definitely a fun atmosphere to be a part of.
Yeah, and I'll pick 2 as well. Number 2 for me would be the St. Christopher's football game. It was homecoming. It was that one, the student section was a lot more packed, and Titans came from behind in the 4th quarter to get a win, and then leading 14-10. Saints were driving. Deuce Edwards with the game-clinching interception. Ran around for a little bit there, gave me a near heart attack, but ultimately held on to that one to get a win that was crucial for state rankings, and also to defend home field on homecoming against a big rival. But I think my event of the fall has to be the LIS Field Hockey Championship. I mean, anytime you're playing for a trophy on your home field and are able to come through after Collegiate had defeated us in the LIS Championship the previous 3 years in field hockey, I'm going to go with a 3-1 win over Collegiate for my event of the fall. Fellas, enjoyed talking with y'all about this. I feel like we could go on for many more minutes, even hours, talking Titan athletics. But viewers, you might have heard that bell in the background a couple minutes back. These guys need to get to class. We'll have tons more content coming up. Media Day is actually later today, so we'll have interviews with our winter athletes and coaches. And we're looking forward to an exciting winter. We've got girls basketball, boys basketball, swimming, winter track. So a lot more in Titan athletics to come. Thank you to David. Thank you to Ben. Thank you for watching. We will see you next time.